Hi everyone. In this lesson we will discuss a few things about perspective and some general principles to keep in mind to create the illusion of depth in our landscape. So I've got a simple canvas and a very simple exercise set up just to show how we can layer some landscape elements and give the illusion of depth. So let's get started. I've got a bunch of different layers here, and I'm going to start with something to put in the far distance. So I've just made the silhouette of a mountain. You can see it's very far away. It's just a very global shape, I guess we could say, huge in scale. We can't see much detail at all, just the contour really. So the farther away something is, the less detail we can make out and the more of a general shape it takes on. So moving from far to near, the next thing nearer to us is I've put a far away hill that would be between the viewer and the mountain. The hill also has a very general shape. We don't want that to be too detailed, just a nice smooth shape. And I've also started to put some minimal details, some trees on the top of the hill, just far away. Again, these are very simple shapes. We don't want too much detail here, just a simple indication to give this far hill some context and some scale. So moving nearer again, we have a near hill. Notice this time the hill has a lot more feature to it. There are little rocky shapes and sticks and things like that sticking out of the ground just to give this hill a little more, I guess, detail. Since it's closer, we would be able to appreciate those details more, because the closer we are to something, the more detail we want to render with it. And finally, after that, I've got some trees in the foreground. These are very large, and as you can see, I've put some stick details, and this is simple, but I've rendered the leafy needles to this kind of tree with a little more time and detail, just to make this seem like a detailed object in the foreground. So those are some things to keep in mind about shape. Now, if we put these all together and they're all just black silhouettes, it's tough to make anything out. So what I'm going to do is use this to illustrate our next point, which is atmospheric perspective. The farther away something is, the lighter its base value tends to be. So we'll make this far away mountain nearly white. It's just about, a few steps below pure white. So moving forward to our far hill, I'm going to make that. Whoops, I've got that layer group backwards. I'm going to make that a few value notches darker. And carrying that concept forward, we're going to keep going down a few notches in value. And just like that, we've got suddenly a pretty believably deep looking image. We can go from our foreground, these detailed trees, and you can almost pretend that you're sort of walking over these hills off into the far distance. So those are some very handy things to keep in mind with landscapes, both with the shapes that you're creating and with the value range that you use for each layer of depth. We want to move from a high key value in the far distance all the way up to a darker value in our foreground, and that'll really help give you a good sense of depth.